you know, that have plenty of time to get involved, make it happen. So I'm starting to like having two guests because it gives, you know, it gives me more time, gets more candidates on, and then but also gives you guys a chance to kind of talk amongst you know, just sharing. The first time I did it was with Jocelyn and John Aguilera, who are running for, you know, treasurer and auditor respectively. So that they worked out great. It was perfect. I was like, maybe I can do two guests. And we usually get about 1,500 watchers. So between the two, think about it, you guys are coming from two different regions. And the whole goal is to get the whole state. I don't want this just to be a central Indiana show. Yeah, that's it. You know, if you know, travel, I'll get you on and get you some airtime.
Now I'm glad you've been in the Evansville area, at least down there. So that's a big
I'm coming back.
show of support to be able to come down there.
I'll be back. I'll be down in Jeffersonville. In October. Okay. So I'll be back down there again. I got to spend some more time down there. Let's see, I think October 20th for IDAC. Okay. They have the Southern Indiana IDAC, so I'll be down there for that. I got to get all my counties, man. I got to get them all. I love it. I love it. All right, we'll be starting in just a minute, y'all know.
Soon.
Yeah. I'm not talented enough to take questions yet. Once I can read and talk to the guests, you know, eventually I'll get there. But I'm not there yet.
I couldn't even see it. I couldn't read that. That's too funny.
Yeah. Normally
it's just the angle.
Right.
Right.
And then when I have just one guest, it's usually on the table, so it's usually a little closer. But I like this because it kind of makes you feel like. And then sometimes people stop and they watch.
Okay. Yeah. That's neat.
That's fun. Yeah. You about ready, boss? My engineer. Did I introduce you? Yeah. Did I introduce you to HB?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What was your name again?
Aimee.
Aimee. Okay. Try to get my stuff straight here.
There's at least 3 Aimees running for state.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Aimee Million and another Aimee who's Monroe County.
Now, do you use all 3 names of vehicle?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live from OfficePlex and RadioNext.tv. Y'all tune in, go to the website. We need sponsors. If you like what we're bringing you, feel free to be a sponsor. Feel free to, you know, advertise with us. I've got an advertising package. Holla at your girl because we're trying to bring you information on a regular basis. I love doing it. I'm not worried about a paycheck for me, but HB is like hitting me up like, yo, girl, where my money at? No, he's not. I'm kidding. I'm teasing. No, HB put me on and he allows us to have this political show where we talk about the issues that matter to the state of Indiana. So if you get some time and you have a little change, I know everybody's asking you for money right now, but consider donating or becoming a sponsor of RadioNext.tv. All community, all the time. That's what we're doing. And we're right in the neighborhood, right at 10th and Jefferson, in the heart of the 7th District. Yes, we are. We don't run away. We don't shy away. We right there. And you could come by and swing by the window and wave at us. Don't distract me too much. Y'all know how my ADD is. Don't distract me too much. All right. I had a fantastic week. What did I do this weekend? Oh, I was in, where was I? Sometimes my days get all conjoled up. But I was in Bloomington, had a chance to support the Monroe County Clerk, Nicole Brown, who's running for office down there. She's the incumbent. So if you're not doing anything, get a hold of Nicole Brown because think about it, the clerk's office is responsible for making sure that everybody has access to polling and access to voting and makes things easier. Nicole Brown is looking out for the folks down in Monroe County, all over Monroe County. Get with her. So I had a chance to do that. And of course, the boss lady, Regina Moore, was down there giving me the business about what I need to take care of. I heard you, mama. I'm going to get on it. But then on Sunday, we had a peace rally. For the families who are being split apart and what's going on down at the border and deportation. So buddies of mine I'm having a brain freeze. Harlan and Enrique put together a rally to talk about the real concerns and what's going on down at the border. I don't think people realize, about the ice box that they have down there, where they put people in this building that is so cold. The ice people call it the ice box. That's just cruel and unusual punishment, where children are being separated from their parents. They're only 5 and 6 years old. They're being traumatized. And then they talked about women and what women were trying to escape in Central and South America, and the idea that they come to our shores where the beacon, the beacon on the hill, the light on the hill, and we're turning them away. And these women have been struggling. Now, I don't know about you guys, but every shipwreck movie, every tragedy movie I have ever seen in my life, they always save the women and children first. I'm not understanding why our government right now is traumatizing women and children even more than they have before. We have got to do better than this, people. So this rally went off great. We had some amazing speakers and some amazing commentary about what was going on, and just the community coming together and supporting each other. You know what? If somebody in your neighborhood you haven't met yet, take the time to say hello. Go say hi. You never know what the situation is or where they find themselves, but you can be just that day, just that one day of you just saying hi can change everything. So remember, we're neighbors, and we're all Americans, and we're Hoosiers. We know all about that hospitality thing, except for when it comes to Republicans, when they talk about riffers and things like that. But we are a welcoming state, and we love people. All right. I don't know how much energy I'm going to give 45 today. All I'm going to say is Reverend Barber put it best. He's the one that does the Moral Mondays and the NAACP president out in North Carolina. He tweeted today, he said, Republicans are not really sure what they're going to do about Trump. He said, now, just imagine if Obama had done what Trump did with Putin and what you would do. Do that. That's what you need to do. This is your dude. You thought you could control him. I'm not surprised at anything he says, because he's a buffoon. I already knew that. I saw that when he came down the escalator. Who comes down a gold-plated escalator but somebody that is incredibly bombastic and overly hyped about themselves? Now they can't control him, and now he's out here making a fool of himself, and actually took Putin over our intelligence agencies. Now, I'm not surprised, because next thing you know, he gonna tell you Melania is really not a human, and she's from another planet, and he just made her up. Y'all really not seeing what you seeing. I'm just saying, don't be surprised at anything else that comes out. Now Republicans want to clean up the mess. They created this mess. I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you other than the 5 candidates who are running, the 7 Democrat candidates who are running against incumbent Republicans or have an open seat in Congress. You need to make sure that you are signing up for their campaigns. You need to make sure you are figuring out a way where you can volunteer and help those 7 congressional candidates, because I haven't heard a thing from Susan Brooks since she told Attorney General Hill to resign. She ain't said nothing. That's my congresswoman, unfortunately. I'm hoping that that Dee Thornton can go ahead and take care of that for me. But we have good candidates, and we have 2 women of color. We have 5 women that are running. So there's ample reason to get on board with these ladies and gentlemen who are running for Congress, because the Republicans have been silent. And your silence tells me that you are complicit to the nonsense that's coming out of the mouth of 45. That's my rant. That's all I'm going to give you. All right, I got 2 fantastic guests today. I got one from Fishers and one from Spencer County. Yes, we're like that. You got urban Indiana, you got rural Indiana, and you got suburban Indiana, all on the same show, because we all come from the same different places, but we all have the same concerns as Democrats. I want you guys to welcome John Hurley and Aimee Rivera Cole, both running for House Reps. Please tell me your number.
75.
75, and you are running in
37.
37. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much. John, I'm going to start with you, because I'm going to tell you, I don't think people realize how fantastic you are and how much we have good quality Democrats down, what'd you say, a few miles north of Owensboro, Kentucky?
About 10 miles north of Owensboro, Kentucky, where I live, actually.
Okay.
And then that district, of course, for state rep for District 75, that includes portions of Warwick, Spencer, and Pike counties in that.
Okay, the first time I met you was at a training session, I believe, on the state party, and your concerns about your community in rural Indiana was strong. It was so strong you couldn't even be silent about it. Tell us and share with us some of the things that you were seeing that you are most concerned about in your community.
Well, the big thing is I'm going in my 9th year in career and technical education. And so every day I see the impact the legislature has directly, not only on those students, but on the communities as a whole. We have a lot of our rural communities are shrinking. Some of those jobs, the good paying careers, not just jobs, those good paying careers are not nearly as available as they used to be. And then particularly in your rural areas, it seems like people don't always want to get out and vote. They don't always think that counts. So that's one thing I try to focus on, is making sure I'm available, making sure other candidates and other promoting the current office holders so that they're out there and giving people a reason to go out and to care.
Okay. Well, Aimee, same thing. People don't believe that there are good Democrats in Hamilton County and in Fishers. Tell me what's going on in your area and some of the issues that you are concerned about.
Well, when you say that people don't believe there's any Democrats in Hamilton County, it's so funny, because ever since I started running, this is not hyperbolic. Literally every day since I've decided to run, someone in Hamilton County has come up to me and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm a Democrat too." I'm like, yeah.
They don't have to be secretive. This is a 12-step program. Be a loud, proud Democrat, baby.
So I think that there has always been a lot of Democrats. I think that people just were afraid to speak out, and they didn't have anybody to vote for, so they didn't turn out. And we have our share of problems up there.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and I know kudos to the Hamilton County Democrat Party, because you guys have filled a Democrat for every seat, a state house seat, a senate seat that's available in Hamilton County. Congratulations. There's nobody running unopposed in Hamilton County.
We have a full ballot this year, so that's the closet. The people who are like, I didn't know there's other Democrats. Now you have a whole ballot of people to come out and vote
Absolutely. So that makes it even more interesting and more exciting. So John, tell the people who you are, where you come from, what you've been up to.
Well, again, I'm going in my 9th year career in technical education. Actually, my degree is actually in agriculture education. I did teach in Henderson, Kentucky for a year on that, and then was fortunate enough to come back to my home county. And I've lived in rural Indiana, rural southwest Indiana, Western Indiana my entire life, and that's been a big motivation. Has actually been my parents on this. My mother taught for 42 years.
Wow.
My dad was a mechanic and farmed, so that was kind of that initial part. But they've been very, very supportive. My wife's been very supportive of this. She actually started out in political science. And then transferred to elementary education. So I don't know which one was tougher there on some of that, but that's been a big motivation. And then again, just seeing that there is support out there, that when someone does make an effort, you can get people to back candidacies, you can get people to care about what goes on in their communities.
And so when you were growing up, did you ever think about being in politics then, or was it something that evolved after seeing some of the things that were going on in your community?
There was an interest. I guess I followed my social studies class pretty closely, my government class pretty closely. But really 2015 was kind of when this really, it wasn't the 16 stuff. I've been thinking about this as the state concerns and my local community concerns. Really, again, that started about 2015, where I started seeing that if somebody needs to step up and do this, and I was fortunate that I've been in kind of a position to gather some of that support to step up and take on this challenge.
That's awesome, because I know down south, they swear Democrats are scarce and there's no way we can even compete down there. But if you're talking about the things that people are concerned about, you're competing.
And again, the public education issue has been the thing that I think, honestly, it brings people that are on both parties down there together. And if they see a candidate that is tremendously supporting public education, and supporting our rural community schools, and supporting career and technical education, that's when they can look at that and say, hey, I support that person.
Okay, Aimee, tell me where you been, where you come from. Let them know who you are.
Well, my mom was also a public school teacher.
Okay.
And it was the public education thing that kind of took me from, I'd always kind of been interested in it, in politics. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for like 20 years. I do civil defense litigation.
Okay.
But I had an incident at our school with my daughter that took me from being like, I'd always been interested, but maybe a little like afraid or apprehensive. But I don't know if you guys have children, but when the mama bear comes out, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't even care anymore.
I don't have one, but I'm married to one, so I know all about it.
So it took me from being like, oh, maybe I want to do this to I have no choice but to do this, because I'm watching the way that the public schools are being basically defunded. The impact of it isn't just a Gary or a Muncie situation. It's a situation like what we have in Fishers, where my daughter was at diving practice once, and if I start to like tear up and cry, I've told the story 100 times, but like I'm still super emotional about it. And someone, when she was swimming, had written in black marker all over her clothes, her backpack, her shoes, her underwear, everything, some 2 awful words, and I'm not going to say what they are because we're on the radio. You want to know?
It's internet radio, though.
If you want to know,
there's no FCC watching us over here. We can talk about how terrible Republicans are, and not even bat an eye.
Well, there might be kids listening.
Oh, well, there's that.
If you want to know, just email me. I'll tell you. But she had to get dressed and walk out of the school wearing that. And how awful would that be? Like, I just can't imagine.
So what made your daughter unique and a target? Was there something about her that made her unique and a target for these people, or are these just bullies?
I really don't know. I mean, she is. Maybe it's. I don't know.
You don't know, right?
I have no reason to believe it's because there's very few. It's a small minority of Hispanics at her school. I don't know that that's it. That would be the only thing that would be different about her. But so I really don't know why they did it. But I went to the school and it was like, first of all, why don't we have lockers?
Right.
And they're like, well, we don't have the funding. What? And then I said, well,
in Fishers. Now, so you're saying that, and a lot of us, when we hear Fishers in Hamilton County, what do you mean you don't have the funding? You have the highest income per capita of any county in the state and continually growing. What do you mean you don't have any money? So when I hear that, I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's exactly what I thought. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And then I said, well, after I went through the school, after I went through the teachers and the coaches, and they did feel awful. And I went to the administration, they were kind of like, just
don't say anything about that.
And I was so mad. And my mom was a teacher, and mom is still, when I'm 42 years old, can still...
Catch up with me, girl. You got no ways to go. 48 over here.
It's funny how moms can still give you advice. But she said, do you ever think about that maybe they have to save their reputation because the funding goes with the children?
Right.
And if they think that Fishers is a rough school or a bad school, or HSE is a rough school or bad school, they're going to take their money and they're going to go to Cathedral, or they're going to go to Guerin. And so that's
why the international school. So, and that's what's so frustrating to me is both of you highlighted in detail the struggles of our public schools. I wrote a piece in IBJ that'll be coming out next week, so pick it up. IBJ Forefront, Indiana's own, you know me. And I talked about the auditor announcing this week that last week that we have a $1.8 billion surplus in the state of Indiana. And what I'm hearing is that our social commitment to making sure that kids, every child in every county has quality public education is being sacrificed so we can sit on a surplus. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should always spend all of our money. No, I'm not saying that at all. But there was a $22 million gap in public funding at the beginning of the year. If you were sitting on $1.8 billion at the end of the fiscal year, why was there a funding gap? Why are people telling me that in Fishers, where it's the highest income per capita of the state, the highest income per capita county per state, and here in rural Indiana, I'm hearing the same thing, that there's not enough money for public education. What are your thoughts on knowing that we have and you either one can go first, I don't care, $1.8 billion in our public schools are struggling?
No, one of the districts, one of the school corporations in my district, they're just now getting back up to the 2009 funding levels. And it's one of them that is an actual growing corporation within that district. So their funding levels are hurting. That means they're rotating through some of their teachers. Teachers are having to move around because they look at other job opportunities. They want to teach. They want to be there. that's their calling, that's what they want to do, but just the realities of it is for them to raise a family, for them to survive. That's something that they have to look at alternatives. And then with this surplus, and you said it right there, it's good to have money, all right, but that's our taxpayer dollars. So one thing I always think of, let's set a limit, let's set an agreeable level of what should be above and beyond even the rainy day fund. That's up for discussion. And then we need to either spend that on programs we need, whether that is public schools, whether that's infrastructure, whatever other programs, or if we can't agree on it, that needs to go back to the people that earned it. That needs to go back to the taxpayers. So there's your options right there.
Aimee, what you thinking?
Yeah, I agree 100%. My son wants to be a teacher, he wants to be in education, and I want him to be able to stay by me. I don't want him to have to move away. And I think that we need to make sure that everybody, particularly our educators, can earn a living. It doesn't matter what county you're in. And then with respect to, I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. Because we're talking about the $1.8 billion surplus, and your school just finished saying they couldn't afford lockers. Now, mind you, that's what I'm learning. I love.
Well, so we had lockers, but they didn't have enough
for
she was an 8th grader who would come over for the diving, and they're like, we just didn't have enough, and they didn't have enough teachers to staff to kind of watch out for the locker room. And I'm like, how is that possible? And I know what the
okay, see, that's my job. Bring it back.
I just think that the way that Indiana does things, they focus on like now solutions, band-aids, instead of like making a long-term plan. Like make an investment, make a long-term strategic plan.
Because we're talking about our future with these children.
Correct.
It's our future.
Whether it be education, infrastructure, whatever, it just seems like we're wanting the Slim Fast deal and don't want to put the work into Weight Watchers.
We don't want to go to the gym. We don't want to go to the gym. We just want to lose weight.
Yeah.
And then it's not even just like not just education and funding teachers, but we talked about how DCS is in shambles. We know that our infrastructure is in shambles. We raised the gas tax for the second consecutive year. They are going to listen. They're talking about it, but they are going to put toll roads on the highways that we've already paid for with our tax dollars. I'm not saying that we spend all of that money, but doggone, I'm thinking you could take $800 million of that $1.8 million. You still have $1 billion left, right? And we could ease the tensions. But and your point was the exact point that I wrote about, and that's our money. It is not the Republicans to sit down and go, look what we got. That's ours. You've given corporate America enough tax breaks. Can we get a break?
And that's where these new taxes that were coming out, or potentially new tolls, that's going to be hitting people that are the workers. That's not the super wealthy here that's necessarily going to be hit by that type of tax cut. That's the day-to-day people. That's when you go fill up your tank, that's where you hit it with the gas tax. Those tolls, we have a lot in my area. If they were to bring that into Owensboro, we're looking at one for Henderson with the new Interstate 69. However, that's going to end up in that area. The bridge coming over in also with 41 there. So we have a lot of people that's just outside my district, but they commute over into Henderson every day, and we have people in my area that commute to Owensboro every day. And then you have ones that also on the southern end in the Louisville area. So if those come through, that's another $2, $4, $6, $8 every day, and that does add up over time. And that hits the people that need it the most.
Absolutely.
Right, with no long-term solution that you won't need to raise it again in the future because you're just putting band-aids on problems. You made a perfect example with the child services.
Yes, that thing. So I'm hearing horror stories all the time about now mind you, DCS workers are averaging around $30,000, $34,000 a year. I'm sorry, that's cost of living continues to go up, and I'm not saying they should make $100 grand, but often they have to take children outside the county. Sometimes they have to actually get hotel rooms because we don't have enough foster care, because the amount of money that we pay foster families is for like an infant, it's like $22 a day. Or a school-age child is $24 a day. That's feeding them, clothing them, housing them, and then how do you not tell a child they can't go on a field trip? Right. So all those expenses. It's just that I get being fiscally responsible, but when your house is crumbling down around you, I don't think that's fiscal responsibility. I think that's neglect.
No, and what's going to happen, it's going to cost you more in the long run to keep doing these quick fix Band-Aids instead of making a solution, making a plan, fixing it right the first time, and keeping it fixed. And then it's just upkeep versus, maybe we'll do this time, and maybe
Right.
we'll do this. I mean, you're spending a ton of money just reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, yeah.
And those workers that have double, triple what their intended workload is supposed to be as far as the number of cases they have. They continually,
yes.
they're doing, most of those workers are doing everything they can to provide the services needed for those children, but it's just they're overworked. And when you're supposed to have 10 cases and you have 28, 30 cases on there, that's when there's only so much one person can
Absolutely,
do at a time.
and you create stressors. All right, I want to focus a little bit on you guys' campaign. That was one of those issues where it's a hot button for me. I mean, it's, you got a hole in your roof, but you're sitting on $2 million. That doesn't make any sense. So, John, when you decided to run for office, everybody comes up with their 3 points that they want to run for office. Tell us about your 3 points.
Well, I think the first one is going to be pretty awful. I'll say strong schools, strong communities, strong citizens. And those do go together. You have to have the strong schools and public education, provide that basis to provide those skills and the desire to learn there. The strong communities, that goes with the good careers, not just a job that you change out every 6 months, every year. A career where if you do want to travel and earn a little bit more, you can. If you want to stay in your home community, raise a family, and then contribute to that community, you can. And the strong citizens, the big thing there is getting people to where they know their vote counts, to know that their officials do listen, that they do care, and that they want everyone to be involved in the community. They want people to maybe run for office or volunteer or work in their church, work in their schools.
I gotta tell you a quick story, folks. When I heard this, my jaw dropped, and he doesn't really talk about it, and I understand because Democrats are kind of humble, modest people because we're in it for the people. But the Spencer Pride down in not Spencer, Indiana, not Spencer County, they had a Pride parade, and John Hurley marched in that Pride parade. Now, there are a lot of politicians who march in that parade, but what made his decision to march was very significant. Him and his wife were engaged to get married that day. So if you're ever concerned about whether or not an individual is concerned about all communities, honey, how does that conversation even go? Honey, I think I want to march in the parade before we get married this afternoon.
Well, that one, and just a correction there, Spencer County had a parade. And
Okay.
That was a separate parade.
Separate, okay.
So this was actually the Spencer County Bicentennial for Rockport, Indiana, so a separate deal. We set our date, and I knew about this parade, I didn't say anything about it. And a couple weeks after I found out about the parade, she actually approached me and goes, you know they're having this big festival and stuff that day. I said, yeah. She goes, well, that's in the morning. You probably ought to take your groomsmen and walk in it.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing.
So that kept us, I think it was more to get me and them out of her way and out of the bridesmaids' way. But yeah, it was a great morning, and again, some people they're just like, are you getting married today in the afternoon? So it was a great day. The Rockport and Spencer County Bicentennial, it was a great deal down there.
I think that's awesome when your wife is in it with you. I'll say, go, and Aimee, I'm gonna give you the same question. There's usually 3 points that people focus in on when they start to run for office. What are your 3 points?
Well, education, public education, making sure that it stays fully funded, that the teachers get the raises they need, that the students get the resources they need. My other is equality, and I think that goes hand in hand with the economy. I want my community to be a place where everybody is welcome. Everybody has the same opportunity to contribute to the community, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race, regardless of who they love. Everybody should be able to contribute the same. And I think when you are open like that and you allow everybody to contribute, that's how you keep your community growing, that's how you keep it thriving, that's how you attract new people, that's how you keep your kids nearby.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we have a crazy brain drain in the state of Indiana. I mean, I remind people all the time, we have some of the greatest colleges and universities, and we have one of the best trade school, and with Ivy Tech, community college, networks in the country, and we cannot maintain those highly educated, ready to take on the world young people because of the quality of life in Indiana. we're number 48. You know, so that's all that is important. What's the other one?
Environment. So.
Oh my yes.
So like, especially like in fish.
Because I like breathing. I'm a big fan of breathing.
I love oxygen.
Oh my God, clean water.
Yeah, I love not dying of water poisoning. But in fishers, it's growing so fast. That's just an example. And I just want to make sure, I like that, but I want to grow fast responsibly.
Right.
And make sure that we are, finding these ways to preserve as much as we can our environment for the future. So
yeah, trust me, I am really happy that I get off on 82nd Street when I'm riding up 69. I'm like, I'm done. I don't have to go any further because there's always construction up there. There's always something going on. I haven't even been to the IKEA yet. I'm like, I'm not going up there yet. I don't want to be bothered with that. So you guys have really great topics that speak to who we are as Democrats, and it speaks to our platform. I love them. What are some of the, you start off one way. How have you evolved? How have some of the issues and concerns where you may have thought it was one way or it's going to be one way when you started your campaign, but then when you got out and started knocking some doors, some things evolved, some things changed for you?
I guess the big one for me was I was aware of some of the gerrymandered districts, that sort of deal, but until I started, working throughout the state to see that was pervasive throughout the state. And in fact, this is interesting. Pike County, which is a fairly low population county, is actually split into 3 different state rep districts. And so I was talking to an individual last night. I was at a restaurant. He came in and we got talking a little bit about campaigning while I was running, and he said something to the effect, well, they kind of messed us over, and you can substitute other words in on that.
Right.
But
let's start with an F with it.
But that was just what was a very real moment that individual realized how something that goes on at the state level directly affects him, because essentially a lot of the voice of that particular county has been minimized at the state house.
It's been split up. What issue have you evolved on?
Well, I think where I evolved is when I first started, I guess I thought I was told by everybody I talked to, you're going to have to take a pretty middle-of-the-road approach on a lot of things, and I was like, well, and some things I am kind of middle-of-the-road on. Like, I'm pretty fiscally responsible. I'm the treasurer of our football team, and the U.S. did try to get $1 out of me.
Okay.
But honestly, so I thought, well, even though the issue I'm probably kind of mute that a little bit more, because I thought maybe that's what the voters in my area thought, and as I've gone out and talking to people, I've learned, no, even some of the most conservative people I've talked to, they all are almost on the same page as me as far as women's rights and women's access to health care. So it's just been kind of eye-opening for me to see that a lot of people, I guess, thought we lived in this community that was so much more conservative than what people were really saying behind closed doors.
And you needed a voice. And that's the importance of running for office, because people want a voice. And it was so funny when I ran, because I ran against Brian Boswell in 2016. We already know the story about that. I knew that I could not go into this community where it was 88% white and talk about justice reform, because it wasn't gonna resonate. I knew that I couldn't spend a whole lot of time talking about the gay issue, even though it was the gay issue that pissed me off to run against them to begin with, right? And so I had to modify, but in modifying it helped me grow, because I started to listen to what they were concerned about. Public education is always number one. The environment is always number two. Infrastructure and how the tax dollars are being spent were 3 and 4. And I learned so much from my constituents. You're ready to be the representative, but I think it's so important that we listen, right, to our constituents. And that's why I like to ask that evolving question, because that's when you're out knocking doors. Go ahead.
Well, and that's what I found out. I kind of realized that because I've spoken with several current office holders, but just going out there and seeing that individuals in Indiana like to vote for the person.
Right.
That they really do, even those hardcore 15% on either side, whether they're Democrat or Republican. So if you do go up and talk to them, and they might not even agree with your stance, but if they understand where you're coming from with that, and they know that you're going to make rational decisions.
Yes, you're going to be thinking. Yeah.
And that's extremely helpful. And again, some of these areas I've been to never had anyone at their door. They've never had anyone at the festival or something like that. So it's been a great experience.
Are you getting the same thing that people knocking? I know you have, because I know who's up there.
So I just expected well, I don't know what I expected. I was like really kind of scared the first time, thinking that people were going to say, "Oh my gosh, there's a Democrat on my door! Call the cops!" But
well, they did call the cops on me though.
Oh no!
Yeah. Oh, honey, campaigning while black. What? Yes. Are you kidding me? Hancock County. Yes, I got the police call, but I was prepared for it. I was ready for anything that could come, and I ended up asking the officers for their vote. I campaigned to the officers. Yes. No sense in getting upset. I knew it was going to happen.
Well, I've had everybody be really nice. I've had one instance that was kind of not like one maybe negative.
Yeah.
The guy said, "I just when I go to the doors, they say, we're just talking to people. I want to know what your issues are. What issues are important to you? Because I just want to know what other people are thinking. I know what mine are."
Right.
And he said immigration, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Please say like children being separated from kids." Please say, and I'm like, "So what specifically?" And he says, "If you ain't born here, get out."
Ooh,
wow. The girl was with me. My girlfriend was with me. She's born in Japan. Takes off her sunglasses and goes, "I wasn't born here." The guy was like,
right. That's what you get, you know.
And I think I'm hoping that maybe that made him think like, you know what, you don't know what you're saying or who you're
I don't even understand that philosophy. Where does that come from? Where does that idea that if you're not born, we're a nation of immigrants unless you are a Native American, whether you came here voluntarily or forcefully. I don't understand. Where did we get? Is this a part of this 45 Orange guy era that we're in, or is this something that's been pervasive for a while?
If it's been pervasive, I guess people maybe didn't want to say it out loud. Maybe now they feel like they have permission.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because we were able to squelch bigotry. We made bigotry uncool.
Yeah, I don't want to make it cool again.
We don't make it cool again.
And then even our level, can there be some influence in the state house with that? Yes, but it's a national issue.
Right.
So that's something that's for the congressional candidates, the Senate, the U.S. Senate candidates on that. And I'm not running for president. I'm not running for Senate. So I always make sure that's somewhere they need to take that concern. First off, let's put it in a reasonable wordage.
Right.
And then that concern needs to go to those federal offices as to how to handle it.
I used to think that, and I think that's a good idea because no, it may not necessarily impact us directly because we're not on the border. But what you have are in Gary, they're going to build a place to house people that they are separating. So even though it may not necessarily impact us from a border standpoint and the the influx, we do have neighbors that are going to are at threat of being deported. Enrique and Harlan, prime example of that. But then you also have contractors who are wanting to build for-profit housing detentions. Oh, let's just call them what they are. Concentration camps. They want to build these concentration camps in Gary. And when you think about Lake County, it's strapped for cash. And they're like, they're waffling on us like, maybe we should. But for-profit institutions to house people that are being detained. So it kind of does have a little bit of impact on what we do at the State House, because do we want to continue to add more for-profit institutions to house people and allow companies to profit off of other people's misery? I just think that there's something incredibly wrong about that. So I just wanted to just kind of give you just a little different perspective on that. But you're right. Yes, it is at the congressional level, but it does impact us in different ways. And the other part of that is when we don't like some of the things that are going on, we can put things in place in our state house to counter those. So, for example, I know some of the Dreamers, they want in-state tuition. They want to be able to get driver's license. Don't you want people to have driver's licenses and be trained how to drive so that if in the event an accident happens, they have insurance, they're documented? I mean, so there are some things that do kind of come back and impact us in Indiana. Yeah. And it may not be that, those are things that I kind of learned along the way. People tell me I didn't know it automatically.
No, and this is a learning process no matter what it is. And that's the other thing. You have to go into this knowing that you don't know everything, that you're never going to know everything. No. And that as long as you're willing to sit down and listen, have a reasonable conversation, that's been one of the best things I've gotten out of this. When you talk about people that have not just two perspectives, but 3, 4, 5 different ways of looking at something.
Absolutely. I mean, the idea that when Thomasina was on last week and she was sharing with me that they're shutting down elementary schools in rural Indiana, and these young children, primary students, have to be on a bus for 2 hours.
2 hours?
One way.
Oh.
And so they literally shortened the school. I mean, so I didn't know this, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Now, I understand that sometimes people like to racialize things and they want to say, well, you know, they're closing schools in urban areas. This is rural white America that they're putting children in harm's way like that.
Well, and you know, I think one of the issues here that I see is that a lot of times the rural areas, particularly I say the southern part, there is stuff south of Bloomington, guys. I got to say that we're down there.
Evansville, Jeffersonville. I love Clark County, my people, my Floyd County. Yes, yes, yes.
It sometimes gets overlooked because the legislators up here, even the ones from our areas, what they see most of the time is what goes on here around Indianapolis. So they look at it through that window, and you know they see maybe there was an issue somewhere. Okay, that might fix it here, but the rest of the state it makes it a worse situation. And that's just a general example. But you know we do have students that if we had one of our elementary schools in that area closed, they would be busing potentially an hour and a half in some instances on there, and that's just in my home county of Spencer County.
Well, I know folks in Lake County sometimes feel the same way, that you know they don't feel like they're a part of Indiana because you know things are. That's why I want the show to be 92 counties. I don't want this to be a central Indiana show, and I tell people if you can get here, I'll give you the time. I don't care. So and in Fishers, it's got to be like you know. The misconception that, okay, because this is a wealthy county, everything is fine, everything is great, everything is wonderful, they're rich.
And not everybody there is rich, though. You'd be surprised.
I know, because I worked at in the IT department for the state, and my job was to fix the computers for all the FSSA food stamp offices. And there's two in there's two in every county, almost. Well, there's more, obviously, in Marion County, but every county has a food stamp office. Every county, all 92.
And I think one of the things that happens also in the schools is when you have that big a disparity in income like that, the kids
they feel it.
Yeah,
they feel it.
You can absolutely feel it. The kids who don't have as much as the others.
And you're in the Hamilton Southeastern District, or
I have one in each.
Well, really?
Yeah, my senior is at Fishers and my freshman's at HSE.
Wow. Now Fishers is not. How old is I don't remember Fishers when I was growing up. Because I don't think we ever like competed against them. I went to North Central.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a graduate in 1980. Yeah, long time ago, a whole century ago. So yeah. So what other kind of things that you're seeing in Hamilton County that people may not even be aware are going on that we need to be concerned about?
The opioid epidemic.
Really?
Yeah. The drug use is. These kids can get their hands on, like my kids will come home and tell me stories that I'm just, it sends chills down my spine because there's pill bottles from when mom had back surgery and they don't keep an eye on it, and these kids swipe them. ADD medicine. You don't know how many kids get arrested at the schools for selling their ADD medicine.
Wow.
It's
no, I do not know.
This is astounding. Yeah.
And so tell us some of the things that the community, or some of the things, the ideas that you have on trying to, you know, combat the opioid addiction, and some of the, you know, because if it's huge, it's got to be something that you've thought about, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, I've thought about it. Well, and I represent public sector, so I represent jails and stuff like that. So I see that what happens when you have, especially like a 17-year-old kid who has a clean record, he goes to jail for a drug violation, something like that, then he gets put into the system, and it's circular at that point.
Right.
Now he's got a record, he can't get a job, he's back. He's met friends who are not doing so great. So I think there needs to be a more definite, clear-lined, and funded program for. And the courts get clogged up that way. I know, I mean, my cases get kicked because we have, you know, the criminal cases have to come before the civil cases.
Okay.
And so there needs to be a separate court for first-time drug offenders in situations like that, and they should get counseling, not just incarcerated, because that's not doing anybody any good.
Interesting. That's an excellent concept. Because I was arrested once, not for drugs, disorderly conduct. I was arrested for running my mouth. That's what it was. Let's just be honest about it. My daddy told me I was going to get in trouble when I was a young girl for talking too much, and I was like, no, I have first been raped. I can talk. It happened. I had just turned 18 years old, and I got locked up for asking about Michael Taylor. So but those first-time offenders, and they get, especially in, you know, minorities, they get locked up in these, you know, in the system, and they learn to become really great criminals. You have a kid who just got high and wasn't even a dealer, right? And they get locked up and they learn how to be criminals. I think that's a fantastic idea.
And that's kind of like the long-term solution I'm talking about, because you're spending all this money housing these people in jail just to bring them back.
For profit. It's a for-profit business.
And the jails become overcrowded, and then I have to, people file 8th Amendment claims because there's too many people in a jail cell or whatever, but where are you going to put them?
You're getting lots of those in Hamilton County? Well, that's just Hamilton County, all over. Okay, gotcha.
No.
Gotcha.
But
the treatment part of that has to be a component at this point, because it is where you have people that are exposed to that. Again, it was something, they tried it and got caught with that. Again, wasn't a dealer, wasn't otherwise a criminal activity, but they need to know what those consequences can be. And if they are physically addicted, there needs to be a treatment component to that, and that's something where is it going to cost funding? Absolutely, it's going to cost money in there. But some of the restructuring of how that's handled, and that's where we need to talk with our police officers. We need to talk with our lawyers. We need to talk with people that operate within the court system and see how could we improve this. I think that's somewhere we can start is get all these groups to the table, and instead of us saying this is what you need to do, it needs to be what can we do to help this situation.
Absolutely, and I would love to see a cost analysis on how much it costs to actually provide real treatment versus how much it costs to actually house people, incarcerate. Because we're looking. The good thing is that we've evolved, right? I'm a child of the '80s, and I remember seeing family members just disappearing into the justice system for marijuana. We treated drug use as a criminal offense, especially when it was hitting the brown and black communities. And now we're finally starting to see, oh wait, maybe this isn't these people aren't just criminals. We all can become susceptible to drug addiction.
Well, it's not even just the cost of housing them, but if you rehabilitate them and you get them back to be productive members of society, then they're taxpayers. They're working.
Oh, well, what you know about that?
They're not.
Because they don't mind taking your tax money and hoarding it. They will hoard your money. So that should be a good incentive for the supermajority if we don't get to flip enough seats. Hey, you want some more money to hoard? Rehabilitate these people.
Well, yeah, and then you have less people needing public assistance because some people can't get jobs once you've had a record.
Absolutely, ban the box, man. I know the 44 was trying like the Dickens to ban the box because everybody makes a mistake. I tell people all the time the difference between me and somebody that's been incarcerated for the last 15 years is getting caught. Because I'm telling you, I've done my share of devilment between the ages of 18 and you don't get to be 48 and not have experienced a few tried a few things in your day. I just got lucky, and luckily my foundation was like, I don't think I really want to spend time in jail. There's much more fun in the streets, and so you change the way you think about things.
I also think that with the opioid epidemic, and this would also lessen the burden on our jails, if they would legalize medicinal marijuana, at least medicinal, then it would keep people from needing to turn to, Vicodin or whatever for chronic pain management.
Yes, absolutely. The studies are out there.
Right.
The studies are out there. I'm gonna switch gears just a minute because we're talking about medicinal marijuana. We're talking about a lot of different education, things like that. And the reason why it came to my mind was because our current Attorney General, Curtis Hill, is so opposed to CBD oil, and he wrote a letter. I guess that was in between the time he was impersonating Elvis. He had time to write a letter. I know, right? I'm sorry. There is just something really wrong about that, but that's me. Let's talk about, and John, I really want to speak to you about this because the only way we can really end misogyny and how women are being treated is if our menfolk, step up and take that mantle and be our allies and our cheerleaders.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know if you what's going on with Curtis Hill or not, and the groping and 45's been accused. Talk to me about. You don't have kids yet, right? You might have a daughter one day. You got any sisters?
No.
No. Okay, but you got a wife now.
Yeah.
So now you're like, you have a woman in your life, other than your mama, that you love and you want to, look out for, and she should not be preyed upon. Talk to me about your feelings as a man looking at what is happening in the Me Too era?
It's. I think people are becoming more aware of things that have been occurring for a long time. It is the way that this is occurring, and a lot of the women are becoming more. They're more comfortable coming out with these situations, and that's been something that's positive. Is that now we can have these conversations about it, and then the men in those situations that they need to know what's not right, and just because they saw someone else do that and got away with it, or it's not right for them to continue to do that. There has to be that professional level there, and that's what I'm seeing is that as long as we're having that conversation, and women that are in any situation are now standing up for themselves and feel good about doing that's the big thing, is they have to be able to stand up for that, or anyone that's had that happen to. I shouldn't just even say women. I know that's happened in other situations as well.
Men have had it happen definitely.
And that's where it is making it aware, and then we need to know, speaking from a male, that's not right. We need to know that this is not correct behavior, particularly if someone at one point thought it was correct behavior.
I know that you said women's issues are big for you. Talk about, Curtis, if you go as far as you want to go, sister, go as far as you want to go.
I'm going to have to take a breath and try not to start losing my mind over here. But
lose it, girl. That makes the show more fun.
But you were talking to him about his perspective as a male, and I say that to my son all the time. I have a teenage son, and I say, you have a place of privilege that you need to use. When you see men doing things, boys doing things, and boys will do things, but you can't. It's not enough just to not laugh or not say anything. You have to speak up and say, "That's not cool, man." And he does. He's actually part of a group at school about anti-catcalling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I had a guy on, literally, there was a gentleman on Facebook who I had respect for him up until he said catcalling was not harassment. If I don't want it, it's harassment. And if he's like, and literally he went all the way back into his man shell, his man privilege shell. And this is a brother. He went all the way back into his man privilege. We just, trying to give you a compliment. That's not how you do that. Would you want somebody to give your mama a compliment like that?
Right.
It's tough. You're right. People are starting to evolve. I remember, having to check my father one day because, he was having issues with all the foreigners. Here you are with a black man born in 1932 having an issue with another group of people. I didn't understand it, and I had to look and go, Daddy. But he was an older man. I had to educate him. So you're right. It's up to us. But I need more men to step up. I was talking to my buddy Rick Sutton, and he was, man, he's like, more men just need to step up and say we got to fight for our women. All right, we're about 10 minutes out, so I want to make sure we give you guys enough time to tell people where they can find you and what your social media is, what kind of fundraisers you got, when you're walking, all that good stuff.
I guess starting out, hurleyforhoosiers.com is the website. Same thing on Facebook, you can find it there. And then at Hurley for Hoosiers, that's Twitter, Instagram. I have a fundraiser coming up, actually August 11th, down in Newburgh, Indiana. Archie and Clyde's down there. They're setting that up 4 p.m. Central Time, by the way. If you guys are traveling.
4 p.m. That's in the middle of the day.
Yeah, for you guys up here. Yeah,
that's working people will be at work.
Yeah, 4 to 6, I believe.
6, okay.
And then we'll have a few more into September on
all right,
that.
August 11th. I like that. That's a Wednesday.
And one thing we did is I like bragging about this.
Saturday.
We had something called a candidate crawl, and we actually visited different restaurants and bar and grills throughout the district on that day. So there's a couple highways that cut through the entire district. We were able to travel through there and then meet people that way. We'll do another one again this fall. And hoping to get a lot more candidates involved. We had some of the locals come out with that. It was great, and I've mentioned that to several of the state candidates.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was on a Saturday. My bad, y'all.
Yeah.
I had the wrong.
Yeah.
As a Saturday, August 11th is a Saturday. So get on his website. Go down south. I have an event in South Bend, but I might. That's a long drive.
Yeah, that's
South Bend down to Spencer might be long, but I'm gonna put it on my calendar anyway. And then, what are you knocking doors? Do you got knocking doors?
It's gonna be almost every weekend. We try to rotate around on there, so I don't have a specific town every time. It depends on weather, and then once Again, I'm a school teacher. When school starts, I'll be out there with a few people after school hours almost every day we can. So.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, where can people find you?
Cole for IND rep, like Cole, C-O-L-E, IND rep, or AimeenRiveraCole.com. But Aimee, I spell it kind of funny, so...
A-I-M-E-E.
It's phonetic. I'm having a fundraiser Saturday the 28th, so next Saturday. It's at the Hurley Davidson in Fishers. So if you're coming up that way, hit the IKEA.
Okay.
My husband's band it's the House Marys, and they're getting back together.
Excellent, excellent.
And then Dad Jeans is playing, and Finest Grain.
Oh, I don't know any of those bands, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, so it's from 6 to 10 next Saturday the 28th, and you can get tickets on my website.
Oh, nice. You're selling tickets. All right. And so when are you knocking doors?
I'm going out Saturday with Derek Camp. So
Oh, okay.
Saturday morning.
What, is Derek all the way up there?
Yeah.
Dang, district. He needs to flip that seat. I'm about sick of it because that's my district. The Senate district is 31. Have y'all ever heard Jim Merritt talk? Have y'all ever listened to him like pontificate? He doesn't do it very well. He has to have somebody else's idea. I went to an event where he and Brian Bosmer were on a panel together, and literally he deferred all of his answers to Brian Bosmer. I'm like, but you're the state senator. Could you tell me what you think? So yes, please. I'm glad to hear that you guys are knocking doors. All right, so we got a few more minutes. What I love most is when I hear people's door knocking speech. Go ahead and I'm gonna let Aimee start first. Aimee, give me your door knocking speech.
I'm Aimee Rivera Cole. I'm running for state representative in this area. At this point, they would say, "Oh." I say, and I'm just out trying to talk to voters to see what issues are important to them in this upcoming election. And I usually don't have to talk again after that.
Okay, because they give it to you.
People will either they'll say they're not sure, and at that point I tell them a few things, like I talk about education and environment. But yeah, I don't have to do that very often. People like to tell me, and I love hearing it. It's pretty interesting.
All right. What's your door knocking?
It's very similar on there. I always go up and they answer. I'll introduce myself, shake hands with them if they're for that. So say I'm John Hurley. I'm running for state representative District 75. Warwick, Spencer, Pike counties in there, and I have some information here. And then what would you like to tell me?
I love it. I love
you
it.
said you shake hands. So have you been going out when it's like 1,000 degrees? I feel so
Yes.
embarrassed. I don't want to shake your hand.
Oh, that was
so
the best time
sweaty.
to go. Are you kidding? I would get so many sympathy, like, oh my God, you're out here in the heat. And what they don't realize is that I'm kind of made for the heat. You know what I'm saying? It's that cold that I can't do. But yeah, I would get like sympathy, like water bottles. Like, this is amazing. You're out here and it's so hot. I sure am.
I'm trying to before I shake their hand.
Yeah. But that's. I mean, tell me you don't love campaigning. I mean, tell me.
I do. I like it.
Campaigning's amazing, right?
Yeah, and you have to enjoy it. It's something that if you're not enjoying it, you're not doing it right. There's hard parts to it. That's absolutely true. But you're going to enjoy it when you get out there and meeting the people. I would encourage anyone if you need to run for something to meet the people and see how that process works, whatever level you want to get involved in. I always encourage people to get involved for public office.
Is this y'all's first?
It's my first.
Yes, ma'am.
So two first-time candidates. I love it.
And if you're nervous about canvassing, like helping somebody, like everybody I brought with me, even my daughter, who was like, you know that teenager. She likes it now. She's gone voluntarily since the first time.
Wow, and I know you guys can always use more volunteers and fundraising. Donate to them. Volunteer. We need these candidates in our state house because they're speaking to the needs of the people of the state of Indiana. You guys are amazing, and I love the contrast, and that's why I was excited when we saw each other at the convention. I was like, John Hurley, because it's a nice contrast because we are as Democrats, we are a big tent party, and I get excited when I got to hear John Hurley talk because a lot of people forget that Democrats come from everywhere. And I love his southern accent. I love it. I was so excited. It's like, wait till you hear John Hurley. He's a man's man. He's got his. I tell people this is how I describe him. Please forgive me if I'm all messed up when I do it. I'm like, he wears wears a big belt buckle. He's got cowboy boots. And he's got that southern drawl. I'm telling you, Democrats come from everywhere. And the reason why I want to highlight that is because even as Democrats, we have our own implicit biases. And we have to get rid of those implicit biases. That's why I'm so proud of the work that you do, and I am a fan of yours. And I've seen him more, Aimee. You don't mean I don't know him, no less. I just known him just a little bit longer, and I knew that he was coming from a very different place. But Democrats, we are vast. You know, we are coming from everywhere, and there is a blue wave. I got my surfboard. I mean, I'm ready because they think they have a stranglehold on our state house. No, people are fed up of things not being fixed, roads not being fixed, kids not having high-speed internet in rural areas, not being able to afford the books. You know, there are real problems in our state that talk about the needs of people. When you look at the Republican platform, they spend a lot of time about economic development, but all that economic development is about how you can cut taxes for the wealthy, how you can create more $12, $7 an hour jobs where people can't sustain and live off of. They're not talking about, their platform doesn't talk about how they improve the lives of people. The candidates that come on this show, and I have yet to meet one that doesn't talk about the people first. Everyone talks about the people first, and that's who we are as Democrats. All right, Indiana Zone, I want to thank you, John. That was before he drove from Y'all not understanding. He drove from Kentucky. Almost from Kentucky. Just over that line to come and talk to you guys and introduce himself. Aimee came from Fishers. You came in that 69 traffic. I don't care what you say. That's just as bad. This is crazy. I really do appreciate you guys coming and spending time with us today, giving us a chance to know who you are and why you're running for office. Volunteer, donate. Great candidates. If you want to know how to get more information about these guys, find their websites and make it happen. All right, next week, you know, we got another live show. I got Ed and John Barnes. Ed Lip Trap, and I'm trying to remember, so I did like a plug for next week. I always forget. But tune in next week. We'll have 2 new great candidates. We're doubling up on candidates because there's so many that we want to introduce you to. Forget this one-on-one. We're going to get as many. If I had a bigger studio and I can get 6, well, then we have to go 2 hours, HB. We have to go 2 hours with 6. I think he would be down with that if we can make some money if y'all sign up to be sponsors. Boom! What? Did I do another plug? Indiana's own Dana Black. I thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.